Welcome to IDX Combatives, lesson number 6, power generation. Last session we talked a little bit about the mechanics of some of the core strikes, but without power generation, those strikes are not going to have a very good effect. So this week we're going to talk about 7 different body mechanics that are going to increase the power in your strikes. The first one, and some of these you may already know and familiar with, and you kind of do naturally, like the first one, body rotation. That's basically, that principle is, if I was to punch and I don't move my body at all, obviously I'm not going to get any power behind it. But if you kind of rotate your body, like with a lead strike, if you're rotating your body into that strike using your hips and your thighs and your legs to push behind that strike, you're going to gain a lot more power into that strike. The next one is an important one, the drop step. What that is when you're striking, you can basically, as if you're tripping, come fall forward, and then you put your body mass behind that strike. So the strike is going to land before your foot hits the ground, so that you can put that power behind that strike. The next one is the shift. It's also been referred to as the killing shift. What that is basically, if you're in this stance, shifting as your stance as you're striking, and kind of coming around with that strike. And so you're basically using that whole body rotation to shift into that strike. The next one, penetration. It's kind of a basic principle. When you're targeting a strike, if you're targeting right at the edge of the skin of the body, you're not going to put as much force behind it. But if you actually visualize your target to be behind that person, you're going to penetrate farther into that strike. Rather than kind of coming here and bouncing up, you're going to push through and put more power into that strike. The next one is basically the push-pull principle. It's 2 parts of that. The push, if you end up pushing someone, part of their body can end up turning into you. So when you push, part of them could be making themselves available for a strike for you. And the opposite effect is if you pull, if you're pulling on, say, someone's arm or shirt or head, you can be pulling them up into a knee strike or into a palm heel strike. So that's kind of the push-pull principle. The next one is springing. What that is basically, you can use that if you were like down and you needed to launch up into a strike, or just as simple as if you're going to be striking, moving off and lifting off your back foot, making sure your back foot is off the ground, so you're powering up into that strike. But if you're down, you've been kind of beat down, you're coming up from this way, you can kind of come up with a 2-hand, boom, up that way into a strike. So that's the springing effect. The last one is a swivel, which is what you can do with your lead hand, and you're going to come around and basically hook into that strike by stepping forward into it and then basically twisting into that strike with your lead hand. Boom. The other part of power generation is what we've already talked about before, is the right offensive and survival mindset. Without those, if your mind is prepared and you're in survival mode, that adrenaline is going to be rushing through you, and that aggression, that power, that adrenaline is going to put extra strength behind your strikes. So those are kind of the 7 plus 1, if you will, basic principles of power generation. Also in this lesson, I wanted to touch on briefly something else called direct striking. Tony Blauer calls it closest weapon, closest target. That's just basically a principle of when you are in a mode of a strike, to use whatever is closest to kind of keep, striking as quickly as you can. So rather than worrying about being real quick with your strikes, just use whatever your closest weapon is to keep striking that person. So if you're, whatever it is at the time, you just keep using whatever's closest to keep hammering that person. So it seems like you're moving really fast, but it's because you're just kind of getting in a lot of different strikes that are when your weapons are closer to their targets. So that's it for this lesson. If you have any questions, you can contact me at idxcombatives@yahoo.com. Thanks.